I'll take a 30-second delay to...
No, I know.
Welcome to go on. I trust it.
Good evening, welcome to tonight's meeting of the North Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Eddie Laborie, the committee chairman. We are live on the council's YouTube site. So for those in the room, the camera faces this way. You are all invisible at the current moment. But if you come to the table to speak, you will be visible on the YouTube. Can I also ask, while I'm doing those sort of reminders, that everybody, that includes everyone around this table, speaks clearly with their microphones on, otherwise it doesn't come out on the council's YouTube, which makes it slightly difficult for those trying to follow it elsewhere. I'm going to do standard administration, then I'll explain how the meeting works, and then we will get into the various applications. Can I do apologies for absence first, please?
We've had apologies from Councillor Morse and Councillor Dott is substituting.
Any declarations of interest in matters coming for tonight's meeting? No. The meeting, the minutes of our previous meeting, which was the 18th September in the bundle, can I take those as agreed? Okay.
Excuse me, Chairman, before you go on, there was something from the minutes. Councillor Morse asked for some information on increased amenity space on the application concerning...
there was only one.
That's right, it was the only one. It was about the reduced amenity space on the balconies. He's not here, he's gone away on holiday. He asked me to ask if that had been pushed through yet.
No.
Okay.
Short answer.
Asked and answered, thank you very much.
That hasn't come in, and I'm aware that is still outstanding. I know Councillor Morse is, but I'm also following that through.
Thank you.
The items on tonight's agenda are the ones, they're all in part one, will be considered in public. They are the items that were in the agenda published by the Head of Planning last week. There are two petition items, numbers 6 and 7. The rest are non-petition items. The usual health and safety, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so the fire alarm goes off. We will be taking it as real and following the officer lead. We will be leaving the building, either through those doors and through the next set of double doors ahead of you and down the spiral staircase, or there is an alternative exit in the corner behind me. Can I please ask that all mobile devices are now switched off or at least to silent? I particularly remind those who are sitting closest to me, because those are the ones that generally go off. And so I have just confirmed my own, so that's good. This is a meeting of the committee held in public, not a public meeting. Therefore, the rights to address this committee are set out in the Council's constitution, are summarised in the planning report, and as I will outline now. For each of the applications, in addition to the report that was published last week, there is an addendum sheet for this committee tonight, which contains some updates and changes to various items within the report. Members will receive a presentation from officers, together with a PowerPoint and various slides. For petition items, petitioners are allowed to address us for 5 minutes, and you get 4 green, 1 amber. When it gets to red, that's 5 done. On any item where there is a petition, regardless of whether the petitioners exercise their right or not, applicants or their agents are entitled to address us. There are no ward councillors, I don't believe, for any of the wards involved. I know Councillor Sweeting's in the room, but I presume you're representing a petitioner, would be my assumption. Can I just also confirm you've no declarations of interest? No, that's fine. I just need to be transparent for the public record. Once those are heard, members may ask questions and they may not. And then once that is done, we will proceed to the debate on the items. Once we get to the debate, there is no interchange between members in the public gallery, effectively, and committee. That is down to committee to do it. Voting members of committee tonight, I only get a vote if we get a tie. So voting members of committee tonight, I'm going to start on my far right tonight with Councillor Goddard, Councillor Melvin, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Tuckwell, Councillor Edwards. We've got Councillor Oswald and Councillor Dott. We are expecting Councillor Duncan, who I understand is currently delayed. For transparency, the rules are if you come in after an item has started, you can't partake in the discussion for that item. But I think I see Councillor Duncan. Yes, I do. So therefore, we are A-OK, because she will be here before we start discussion of any items. Timing is almost perfect. You just haven't had to listen to me, which is, that may be regarded as a bonus by some people. We have an extended officer team tonight who are going to split various duties between them. They will share the privilege of that with me later. Alan Tilley is doing highways tonight. Chris Brady and Richard Phillips, two of our planning officers, are presenting the applications. James Rogers, the head of planning. Luke Taylor is our clerk and would welcome completion of any orange feedback forms if he's put any out. They are some I can spy in the back corner. And Glenn Egan is our legal advisor if we get into legal technicalities. Okay, that's all the admin done. I now move, please, to item 6, which is 1 and 1A Bath Road, Heathrow. Richard, this is your one.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman.
Excuse me, Chair. Under declaration of interest, I wish to declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 7. It's a matter that my residents' association has been involved in, and so I will leave the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that one, and thank you for reminding me, because I had done them, but yes, thank you for that.
Right, thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. In terms of item 6 concerning 1 and 1A Bath Road, members should note that there are various changes on the addendum sheet which you would need to look at. So in terms of this application, this is an outline proposal for the demolition of the 2 existing 2-storey buildings on site, a banqueting conference hall, which falls within use class D2 of the use classes order, and an office warehouse building, which also falls within use class D2, and to be replaced by the erection of a 5-storey, 192-bedroom hotel with associated works, with the only matter reserved for subsequent approval being landscaping. So if I can take you through the presentation and the plans. So this is a outline location plan showing the site. This is a constraints plan. You can see there the red line boundary is outlined in red, obviously, and the green shows the green belt boundary surrounding the site. So it wraps very tightly around the existing developed area and the footprint of the existing buildings on site. So again, this just shows the existing site plan and location plan. Again, an existing site plan. So this shows the existing ground floor plan of Unit 1. And this is the existing ground floor plan of Unit 1A. So that's the first floor plan of Unit 1. And that's the first floor plan of Unit 1A. So this is the proposed site plan. It shows the building there on the left-hand side. It roughly occupies a similar footprint to the existing built development. And it shows the car parking at the bottom there. So these shows the levels plans. So on the left, that's the first basement. Sorry, that's the ground basement plan, and on the right is the first level basement plan. So there is car parking on that lower level. I believe there's about 22 spaces shown there. So this is the proposed ground floor plan. Again, it shows the footprint of the building and car parking at the south there. And there's another 38 spaces in that car park to the rear. Again, this shows the existing first and second floor plan, the proposed first and second floor plans, showing the hotel bedrooms. And notice there's that it's a courtyard area that's open on the eastern elevation of the building. And there's sort of like a sort of tiered areas. Hopefully the elevation plans might show that in more detail as we come to them. So again, let's see the third and fourth floor plans, and that's the roof plan. So this is the proposed elevations, the proposed north and east elevations. So that east elevation at the bottom there, that shows these tiered areas that cross over this sort of open courtyard area. And that's the south and west elevations of the proposed hotel. And this shows proposed building sections going through the basements and the various hotel levels above, hotel bedroom levels. And again, you can see the bottom one, and on the top you can see the void that's created by this open area in the middle of the building. And that's proposed site sections. And this is a site comparison with a previous approval for a 192 bedroom hotel on this site. So you'd be able to see that the floor area is very similar between the two schemes. It occupies a very similar site. And these are comparing the previously approved elevations and the current planning application. Again, the bulk and mass of the proposal is very, very similar. And this is the aerial photograph showing the site, showing the two existing buildings on the site. Obviously, the river crane runs to the right-hand side of the site with the A4 Bath Road above. So these just show the photographs of the front of the buildings. That's the other building. Again, another picture showing the front of the building. And again, that shows the building at the side of the site, on the opposite side of the access road. That's an office-type building, which actually sits within the boundary of the Heathrow Airport. So again, that's the front of the adjoining office building on the opposite side of the access road. And these just show the residential properties on the opposite side of the road. Another view a bit further along. That's the other one. It shows the green space at the side of the adjoining house on the opposite side of the road. So planning permission, application reference 35805/APP/2009/2433 was approved for the demolition of existing buildings and the erection of a 5-storey 192 bedroom hotel with basement and surface level car parking, with a bar and restaurant, meeting rooms and other associated works. This planning permission was not implemented and expired in February 2015. The current submission, as we have seen, is very similar to the previously consented scheme. However, since the previously consented scheme, the council local plan has progressed through the plan process, and the site and the wider Bath Road are no longer designated as preferred hotel growth locations. As such, the applicants were required to undertake a sequential assessment to ensure that there were no other more suitable locations for a hotel of this type, including town centres within and outside of the borough. The council's policy team are supportive of the assessment response, and as such, it has been demonstrated that there are no sequentially preferable sites, and the application has received no objections in principle. The proposed building would have its southern and eastern elevations immediately adjoining the Greenbelt boundary, with with the proposed car park being sited within the green belt. However, the scheme would not extend beyond the existing developed area of the site, and the scheme has an identical relationship to that of the formerly approved hotel, including the siting of the car park, and this area already provides car park hard standing for the existing buildings. The building has been designed to reduce the impression of bulk with an open courtyard area with planted tiered areas which would face east, and in its use of materials. Landscaping will be important to further reduce the impression of bulk, and although this is a matter that's been reserved, a master plan has been prepared to show the general landscaping scheme. A total of 60 car parking spaces and 1 coach space is proposed, including 22 lower basement spaces and 38 surface parking spaces. The highway engineer advised that this level of provision is similar to the previously approved scheme, and no objections are raised. The scheme has been referred to the Mayor, and the GLA do not raise any in-principle objections, and the applicant has provided a response to their detailed comments and concerns, which will be considered in the GLA's Stage 2 report. There have been a number of objections received from local residents, as noted in Section 6 of the committee report, including 2 comments received from individuals plus a 31 signature petition. The majority of these concerns have been addressed within the committee report. However, it is necessary to note that many of these objections raised were not material planning considerations or related to concerns arising or did relate to concerns arising from other developments. The proposals themselves are not deemed to cause highways or noise concerns, and specialist officers have reviewed the submitted information and confirmed this position. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval, subject to being referred back to the Mayor, and the recommended Section 106 obligations and conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Richard. Petitioners for this one? Would you like to come up and take a seat? If you press the button, the mic will light up. If you just state your name at the start for my clerk's records.
Addendum Sheet.
And when you're ready, we'll start timing as you talk.
Sure. Okay. Good evening, all. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Addendum Sheet, and I am one of the petitioners who lives opposite the proposed development. To be clear, the residents are not opposed to a hotel development in principle, but there are issues which we feel need addressing. Please note this is not an exhaustive list. Number 1, we feel parking will be an issue, especially for people that are visiting the hotel for a social drink and perhaps a meal. If the hotel is going to charge for parking on site, people will quite obviously look for alternatives. And with Craneswater being opposite, we fear Craneswater will become even more congested than it already is. Number 2, if the full application is granted permission, the hotel needs to remain solely a hotel and not be used as a wedding or party venue at a later date. Can this be a condition as part of any planning granted? The residents have been suffering for a considerable time because of the loud music that is played into the night and other antisocial behaviour such as cars revving their engines when leaving and entering the site, or when fights occasionally break out. Point 3. Waste storage and disposal should be, if at all possible, be located internally in the hotel. Number 4, during the construction phase and specifically the demolition phase, what will be in place to ensure that any homes impacted by any dust that may be thrown up is suitably rectified? Number 5, what process will be in place to make sure the surrounding roads are not left with trails of concrete mixture, as is often seen near developments? It has to be said, the residents feel they have been let down on previous developments which were granted planning permission. A pertinent example being the fact Hillingdon Council gave planning permission to Starbucks and KFC to operate from the bathroom just 100 metres away from the proposed site. At the time, many residents did contact the council with their responses. The main source of concern from the residents was the antisocial behaviour that would increase, such as littering, etc., etc. Regrettably, whilst granting permission, the council didn't stipulate any roads or specific areas that actually required litter picking, but instead left it open to interpretation by stating, quote, litter picking to be carried out by staff throughout the day, both within the site and in proximity of the site by designated members of staff, unquote. This proximity loophole has caused a lot of difficulty for residents. Many years later, and even with a petition of over 100 signatures, meetings and emails, the residents are still fighting to have Starbucks and KFC fulfill their duties in the spirit of the agreement. Despite agreements and meetings, litter picking still very much a hit-and-miss exercise, which causes the well-being of the residents in the area to suffer unnecessarily. It didn't have to be this way. Cranes Water is often also used as an overflow car park when parking spaces are running low on the KFC site, and is also frequently used by customers of the proposed site who decide that they would rather just park there instead of going down to Cranford and then performing a U-turn. Now, going through the response from the council, 74-page document, we can see there are all kinds of costs which are payable to the council, such as employment strategy and construction training, a £20,000 bond for the full framework travel plan, highways contribution of £90,000, £155,000 for air quality local action plan, section 106 or 287 agreements, notwithstanding the millions it's going to cost to complete development. In order to address some of our concerns, can we humbly suggest some improvements which we feel would make a difference to residents in the local area? Number one, that the owners of this site work together with the council in order to facilitate CCTV cameras along specific roads which are to be monitored. Signs should be put up at entry and exits on the local roads where cameras are installed. This will assist in the amount of litter being dropped, especially if signs are installed at entry and exit points. Number two, the council to work with residents to install a parking permit scheme. Number three, that the owners of this site to get together either individually or in combination with Starbucks and KFC and the council to facilitate a street cleaner on a permanent basis from Monday to Sunday. Number four, install obscuring glass for windows that will be installed on the upper floors of the proposed hotel. Notwithstanding the officer's comments in regards to distance, privacy will be an issue for the homes directly opposite the proposed hotel. Number five, maintain the area of Cranes Water and the central reservation, which never appears to have weeds or any of the moss removed whatsoever. Thank you for allowing me the time to share residents' concerns with you. On behalf of them, I can say we appreciate it.
Thank you. Do members have any questions? No? Okay. No? That's
Okay.
good. Could
Thank
you just turn that microphone off
Sure.
for me?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here on behalf of the agent or the applicant? Thank you. Yeah, when you're ready, if you press the button, and the microphone will light up.
Hi, good evening, Chair, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peggy Ho. I'm a planning consultant for Maven Plan Limited, the agent for this application. The current scheme seeks an outline planning permission for the demolition of two existing buildings, erection of a 5-story hotel, providing 192 bedrooms. The principle of the hotel has been previously established through the lapse consent in 2012 and the pre-up response in 2018. The current scheme is almost identical to the lapse consent, apart from the minor changes to the ground floor footprint, car parking numbers, and layout to address the operation needs and the current planning policy requirement. May I first address the resident concerns, which I gather from the submissions and the speech by the residents is related to the resident amenity, parking, and highway safety and construction phases. The residents are concerned about the proposed building is too close to the houses on the opposite side of the Bath Road. The nearest residential properties are approximately 60 metres from the proposed building frontage. The general rule of thumb is a gap between 18 to 21 metres should be achieved between facing habitable rooms. That should be sufficient to protect overlooking and privacy. The proposal comfortably complies with these guidelines. The residents raised concern on noise, litter, and antisocial behaviour, which largely relate to the existing land use. However, we are mindful of these concerns. A noise report was prepared and assessed and accepted by the Environmental Protection Unit officer. The proposal has demonstrated that it would not result in any unacceptable impact on neighbouring amenity. The meeting and conference facility will be provided in the basement. The building will have an internal recycling refuse store at the rear park of the building. In our view, this arrangement improves any existing concerns about residential amenity. In relation to parking and highway safety, a full transport assessment was submitted. The information was reviewed by Hillingdon and TfL and found acceptable. The applicant will enter into Section 106 agreement to provide full framework travel plan, including Heathrow National Express Hopper bus service. Secondly, the highway's contribution to a safety enhancement to the junction with Bath Road and Crane Water, and also the junction improvement of A4 Bath Road and the site access road. The level of parking spaces is based on the parking accumulation assessment, and again, the finding is acceptable by the highways officer and the TfL. The applicant will accept the condition to provide car parking management plan, setting out staff and customer parking arrangement prior to occupation. All these measures will ensure there's no significant impact on traffic conditions, parking and road safety. There's a concern about construction stage, and which I understand there's a condition number 9, which will request the applicant to provide construction logistic plan to ensure the management of details on construction traffic and vehicle types, etc., during the construction stage to mitigate any concerns. Turning to the benefit of the scheme, the proposal will provide a high-quality, well-designed hotel. The design incorporates 2 landscape terraces on the east side of the building and also internal courtyard. The existing green space will be retained and enhanced with additional planting. This will enhance the visual amenity of the green belt and the National Conservation Site of Metropolitan or the Borough of Grade 1 importance. The scheme will provide much-needed hotel in Hillingdon in a sustainable location. Our sequential test demonstrates there's no other sequentially preferable site which are suitable and available for the proposal. The hotel will also generate significant more jobs than the existing land use on site. The applicant will enter into Section 106 to secure financial contribution of job training. In addition, sufficient car, cycle, motor parking facilities will be provided. The scheme will not result in any significant impact on traffic conditions, parking and road safety. As I mentioned earlier, the principle of the hotel has been established through the previous plan permission. The Council also advised the principle of the hotel is acceptable at pre-up stage. We therefore believe that the submission has demonstrated the proposals in full compliance with the national planning policy and the local planning policy guidance. It is therefore respectfully request the application be approved, subject to appropriate conditions and its completion of Section 106 agreement. Thank you.
Another well-timed speech tonight. That's 2 of them. Do members have any questions? I have a couple, but do members have any questions? Councillor Higgins, I'll take yours first.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a couple, actually. Firstly, the banqueting area. Obviously, there is concern of weddings that can go late into night. I mean, how big is that area, and how many people will be occupied in that area? And also, that I'm getting a missed bit, and maybe I've got my wires crossed. Is there going to be a restaurant inside the building as well? And that would be sort of like a restaurant, not with takeaway service.
Yeah, the hotel is kind of like a typical hotel with a restaurant on the ground floor level. This is not going to be like a destination on its own. It's going to be like a kind of like ancillary services or facilities for the hotel user. Yeah.
For clarification, does your new proposal have a banqueting element to it?
There's no designated banqueting facilities, but there's conference room and meeting room. There's 2 conference rooms and 5 meeting rooms at the basement level.
Okay. Through you, Chairman, it's only because it's in the report, that's why I wanted clarity.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking so that we're all clear when we start the discussion as usual. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. We heard residents saying they were concerned that the hotel may charge for visitors for car parking. Presumably that isn't going to be the case because they have to provide parking in accordance with car park standards. So can you confirm that visitors coming here will not be charged and therefore likely to go onto residents' roads.
This is kind of like a detailed policy when it's kind of operation management, but we will provide like a full travel plan, and also kind of I think it's a car parking management plan, which is one of the conditions, and that will be subject to council approval.
Thank you.
Not sure. Can I come in? I'm not quite sure that covers the councillor's point.
No, it doesn't. Can I just say that the resident who spoke, the petitioner who spoke, raised a very good point in relation to the, the fast food facilities nearby. And I can remember that application, and that we were very concerned about airport parking, and we did put on what we thought were quite stringent controls on that there should be no airport parking, that it should be monitored and only for the use of people visiting those facilities. Now, we've heard today from the residents that isn't strictly followed. So I think in this case, having heard what's happened in the other, we would want very strict and quite detailed involvement in the details of the parking management plan if this is to work. So I can see that at your stage you haven't got into that detail, so perhaps it's unfair to ask at this point.
No, I will propose something in a moment that will deal with your concern.
Something that we do need to. Another point, just quickly, Chair, thank you, is this is on a main road. We're very concerned about pollution. It's near the airport where air quality is poor. We know that planting can absorb pollution and help to offset that. And is it your intention, I haven't actually seen those words in these conditions, but I'm assured by the head of planning at previous meeting that they are in, but I don't see them here, that we ask for planting which has maximum absorption of pollution. Is that your intention as developers, please?
Yes, I think this is a part of the proposal. We are going to have significant planting, especially in the landscape area. And also because this application is outlined, there will be a reserved matter stage for the landscape proposal. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I know that there will be planting. What I'm saying is...
can I cut that one there, because a tweak will come in a moment that will deal with your concerns.
You read my mind.
I think I know where you're going with it, so yes.
Thank you, Chairman. In the new plans and documentation that's been provided, the proposed schedule of accommodation includes conference/banqueting of 415 square metres. Could you please provide me with the information about how many people you would expect to be attending a 415 square metre conference or 415 square metre banquet? Fair question.
I think that 415 in the -1 level is actually including all the individual conference room and meeting room. So it's not like a really large enclosed area. You can see that the floor plan, I mean, the meeting room, 5 of them is actually in the central section, and there's 2 conference room, which is kind of at the 2 ends. So we anticipate the building is going to be used for kind of like visitors for like having meetings or conference, etc., rather than a large number.
I haven't heard a number yet. I may have missed it. I hear a lot of words, but I think the council was after potentially. I think his question was very clear: was how many people might it accommodate, which might tell us how many people might be on site. I think that was where his question was coming from.
Through you, Chairman.
Are you going to help?
No, I'll probably...
You're going to hinder?
I'll probably hinder, but I always do. Does officers have a breakdown of each individual room? I think that will actually sort of put in light.
It may or may not be relevant to the determination in a moment or two, but okay. If there's any more questions for the agent, we'll hold that one. Maybe officers may be able to help provide some clarification on typical occupancy numbers for that size of room.
Chairman, I don't think it's one particular room. I think it's a
No,
build-up
well,
of various
let's understand what we've got, and then we'll work from there. Is that a schedule? It looks like something. Okay, we'll look at that in a moment. Any more questions for the agent? No, we're done. Thank you very much indeed. Before I open this one for debate, can I do a little bit of administration work which will shorten debate? Councillor Duncan very kindly raised the issue regarding pollution, which we have explored on this committee many times before. We normally ask in high pollution areas for the landscaping scheme to include species that particularly absorb pollution well. I know it's an outline and that is a reserved matter, but given there's a landscaping condition, I don't think there's any reason why we can't.
Absolutely not. And can I at the same time, because I was looking at item 9 to see if we got it right on that one. We haven't, so it's 6 and 9.
So when we get to 9, we'll do the same. Councillor Duncan will remind me if I forget. The second tweak, we had there was a long debate regarding car parking, which I don't think was adequately answered, at least not to my hearing. I think there's a simple solution to the problem. I'm well aware that hotels on the Bath Road are prone to charge for car parking, and at a fairly high rate that could be sufficient to deter people from parking in the hotel. Now, the conditions of this one have been tweaked for the full, no park and fly job, so we've dealt with that. What we haven't dealt with is the imposition of car parking charges. So I would suggest that the head of planning may just have a tweak to condition 24, which is the car park management plan, which will help.
Councillor Duncan actually raised exactly the point I'd made some notes on. The key to this application is condition 24, that I don't think it's actually how many people are in the banqueting suite. There is a lot of parking provided, but will that parking be accessible by users of the facility? That's the key. And if there's a high prohibitive charging, then they'll park elsewhere. And the petitioner was making the point, if I may paraphrase, that the residents have concerns that this committee could have been cleverer, if I can be, and I'm being very self-critical here, with a condition on another development involving a drive-through restaurant nearby. And the reason I made notes was because this is the key condition that we need to make sure is robustly worded to protect the residents on this development. So it is the really key issue, and I think we should make it absolutely specific that we're not going to accept prohibitive charging, and there needs to be an appropriate wording. It might be something, because we may need to discuss it with the applicant, that it's delegated to the chairman and Labour lead, so that I can discuss, or my officers, with the applicant. We get a much stronger wording. We will insist on a stronger wording because it's so pivotal to the concerns raised by the petitioner, in my view, and then I think it's a good one for the chairman and Labour lead because it is very pivotal. If I may make one other correction, members may have noted there's a bit of paper circulated with the low emission strategy condition. I'll be honest, we've had there's a bit of an issue arisen if we're getting too detailed with these low emission strategies in the wording of the condition. So, for instance, the condition here actually has electric vehicle fast charging mentioned on page 18, but we've got another condition that deals with that. So we're by being very detailed, we're tying ourselves up in knots. What we actually want is to have bespoke discussions with each applicant to maximise how robust their low emission strategy is to address air quality issues. So I think we need to keep it as short and simple as possible. So it's literally just the first line and the last line of condition 25. And then what's happened, because our air quality officer's gone into such detail, she's ended up picking and choosing which developments to apply it on, and I think we should be applying this on all majors. So I will be adding it to, and I'll mention this now, item number 7 and item number 9, because they both involve fleet. But we can pick that up later in the meeting, Chairman.
Okay,
thank you.
Also, could I ask for, residents quite rightly raised a concern, which does happen with demolition sites, that muck gets transported all over the highway. Not an unknown problem. We have a construction logistics plan. The only thing it doesn't mention is wheel washing. So, could I suggest we add wheel washing into the things we'll expect to see? Yeah.
A simple yes.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's just not there. I'm sure it would be asked for, but let's make sure we get it. Started talking.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's just regarding the green belt. I'm looking at the plans where the red line goes around the site, and I'm just wondering that if this scheme is approved tonight, Chairman, and the two buildings are demolished and this scheme goes ahead, is any of this going to impinge on the green belt? Is any of this going to... And it doesn't seem to be clear. I've got page 47 here on my iPad, and it's got green belt as the title, but it doesn't say anything about being built on the green belt, so I'm not quite sure about that.
Are we... Yeah, good question. Are we... Because the plans were changed and circulated late on this one, so are we any building on the green belt, or are we within the existing building envelope, I suppose is the question.
Back to look at that plan. Sorry? I'm trying to see the outline of the existing buildings. Clearly, the greenbelt boundary wraps around the existing buildings, and so they don't encroach upon the boundary.
Are we going any further into it? Was the question.
Yeah.
Are
we going any further up the green belt, because one of those maps you had up there, Richard, showed a red line and it covered some of the green. So I wasn't really clear. It's not clear on here.
Right.
Yeah, that one there. See, that's.
It's a built format going into that green belt.
Is anything going to be built on any of that green belt? Sorry, Chairman, I should have my microphone.
That's all right. Right, while officers look at that, so I thought we had answered Greenbelt. We did check it earlier, and I had assurance that we were okay.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman.
No, valid question.
I hadn't quite finished. The other thing I was going to ask is that sometimes these things crop up, we ask questions, we don't always get the answer that we would like. In other words, we don't get the detail. Do you think that we've got enough information in this report to make a decision tonight?
I believe at the moment, yes, but can I hold my answer for 10 seconds, because I do want to make sure this green belt, because I was assured that this didn't go into the green belt, and if it does, or may do, that may change my determination. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, obviously, I think we might forget, because we're used to doing planning, that some of the issues that the residents, when their petition asked for, I did have wheel washers down, which I'm glad you picked that up. The other thing is the dust issue, which was that if that can be done in the condition of the
wheel washing and
it's the dust. It's when demolishing stuff. If it has to be done in a particular way to reduce the dust. But I mean, you can pick that up through that. Obviously, it's an outline.
I'll get that. No, it isn't. It's only outline on appearance.
Okay.
I think we had dust management.
The CCTV. I'm sure it's in here that we have that anyway for security. The only thing was the obscure glass, but I can see that the distance across is too far anyway.
Sorry?
Obscure glass on the hotel, because
well, the other side of the Bath Road, we just can't make that fly, I'm afraid.
The central reservation is unfortunately not a planning concern,
and it's TfL's land.
And it's TfL's land. And the only other thing I would say to the petitioner was about parking management scheme.
I'll deal with that one.
Yeah, and if they've got issues, then pick it up with their local councils about the...
I've got that held out.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Duncan?
Thank you, Chair. While the issue of the green belt boundary is being determined, if it isn't encroaching into the green belt, could we have protection of that green belt boundary during construction, just as we have protection of trees? Because otherwise I can see that bricks, materials, etc., may well encroach onto that during the construction site period, unless it's protected. So we need to have, a fairly firm boundary or means of protection of that green belt. So
when the head of planning's finished his digging, I'll ask him.
If I can do some partial answers. So we could certainly do a bespoke tree protection condition, because the existing one's simply trying to protect trees, but and requiring that parts of the site is fenced off, effectively, so you don't have materials stored on it. But we could certainly expand that condition to try and better protect the because there's actually ecology, there's the river, etc. So we could certainly expand on that condition. What I think officers are checking is that there's a previous permission which Mr. Phillips referred to. This development doesn't encroach further on the green belt than that permission, and the green belt hasn't changed since that application. But what I think Mr. Phillips is trying to clarify is whether that earlier permission actually encroached. And whether that takes any members any further forward, I don't know.
I think that if I can...
Are we anywhere closer to determining that? Because that's going to... Can we have a mic on, please, Richard?
Yeah, sorry. I think if you look at the plans, if you look at the existing site plan and the proposed site plan, so obviously clearly that plan up there at the moment shows the boundary on the west, running along the side of the building. So clearly that's the greenbelt boundary would run along the side of the existing building there. So if you take a line down, it hits the projecting part of the red line boundary. It hits the same part of that site. So presumably it hasn't been moved any further into the greenbelt boundary than the existing building.
I think the head of planning has got some clarification.
I think there's a really simple way of explaining this. It is a bigger building, but it's bigger because it comes forward. The bit that would concern members is if it went sideways or downwards.
And it doesn't.
It goes upwards, so it does come closer to the road edge, and it does go higher.
But it doesn't go backwards or sideways.
It certainly wasn't the applicant's intentions to go further into the green belt, but it is a bigger building than what's there at present.
And there is a tree shown here on this side of the site, and obviously the existing building comes quite significantly beyond that tree, whereas on the proposed plans it comes, almost in line with that tree, so it doesn't project any further and probably not as far.
Can I say, I think that on the previous application, we had a site visit, as I recall. I don't know if other
I think it was an old centre. It must have been a central and south one, because I certainly don't remember having gone...
We did have a site visit, and it's my recollection that there's a difference in level. And in fact, if we look on the plan, I don't know if this is the case still, but it shows a sort of what looks like a steps down to that level. So it's on the map on page 258. And if that's the case, then the green belt would be partly protected by a change in level anyway.
Right.
That would also make it easy to identify and safeguard during construction.
Councillor Higgins?
I think the previous scheme encroached on the green belt. I mean, if you look at this drawing here, which is the additional second page, you see the bottom line where it's green, where in this diagram, the bottom line of the bottom edge of it, that sort of jigsaw sort of shape, is actually the car park area now. So that is covered. If that's green belt, then that's covered with parking facilities. So,
But it was in the previous.
it was in the previous application. So it's the error of the previous committee.
Oh, well, in that case, I can go with it. It's not ours. I'll go with it. Right. Can I? I think members, we've done some massive playing around with conditions here, and I will summarise those in a moment. Can I just comment to residents on parking schemes? Parking management schemes are outside the remit of the planning committee. If residents want a parking management scheme, I suggest you contact your ward councillors and get a petition which is presented to the cabinet member, Councillor Burrows, and he will consider it as part of that. They do need strong resident support, so they're not something we can impose upon a planning request. I think, unless how much further we can go on litter, I don't know. Hotel applications don't tend to have conditions on it.
Through you, Chairman, it was just the same principle as the parking management scheme, that the litter that's caused by KFC and Starbucks should be then presented to the local councillors, who can then take that up and follow it through.
Thank you for that one. There was a query about numbers in meeting rooms, and I'm not sure if we actually bottomed that one out. That's the last one I've got on my list.
I thought that was going to go to you and the lady.
Well, I just want to make sure I do know what's happening.
The point I would make on this one is compared with the hotels we regularly deal with, it's not a massive area of floor space. It's exactly as the agent said, it's kind of that kind of ancillary level that comes with this type of hotel. There is quite a lot of parking. The key to me is ensuring that parking is freely available, and hence its condition 24 is the key to this.
Okay.
As I think I mentioned earlier.
I think we'll take it at that. Councillor Edwards, I'm going to summarise the changes in a moment, but go on.
Thank you very much, Chairman. In light of the fact that this is not a substantial difference to a previous approved scheme, and the issues that have been discussed here, I believe that there are no grounds for us to refuse the planning application. I would go as far as to say I will support it. Therefore, I move that we go with the officer's recommendations, subject to the changes in the conditions that you are about to outline that cover our discussions earlier.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm just going to summarise those now, and if anyone disagrees with what I'm saying, then no doubt tell me fairly quickly. I have got noted that we are enhancing condition 5 in relation to pollution-absorbing trees. That condition 6 is to be reworded by the head of planning to ensure protection for the green belt. Condition 9, the construction logistics plan, needs reference to dust suppression and wheel washing. And condition 24 needs substantial revision to ensure that the car parking system is and the low emission strategy was amended by the head of planning. Are we happy? Do we want those to come back to myself, the Labour lead, or are we happy for the head of planning to take those?
I'm happy for the head of planning to take those matters forward.
Do you want 24, Jane? Would you prefer 24 to come back?
24 is the key to this. So if there's any condition that would go via yourself and the Labour lead, it would be condition 24. I'm quite happy to take that.
Okay. Well, if we delegate the rest to the head of planning, and we'll have condition 24 as is the key to making sure this doesn't become an issue with residents. To come back to myself and the Labour lead to make sure we're happy with the wording, the revised wording of that. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Thank you, that one's approved. Councillor Duncan was taking I was going to say a short break, but I don't think it will be a short break. No, I think a long break. And the coffee orders are coming. Okay. Agenda item 7 is the old coal depot, Tavistock Road, Useley. It's the civic amenity science application, for in short. Who is Richard?
Yep.
You again.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 7 relates to a planning application which seeks to allow the existing civic amenity site to open on all weekends, together with the reconfiguration of the site to accommodate the public recycling area and a circular route with an in and out access arrangement, together with associated container storage, site and welfare offices and installation of palisade fencing and gates for a 5-year temporary period. The back of house area will continue to service the site. So if I just take you through the plans, that just shows the boundary of the application site, and it includes the access into the wider coal yard. That shows, that's the constraints plan. So again, the application site is outlined in red. The light blue, light brown, sorry, that shows the extent of the IBA area. That's a parking management zone shown in yellow to the northeast of the site, and the hatched mauve area, that's the area of special local character. And the green area, that's the extent of the green belt. This shows again the close-up view of the plan area. Again, that shows the site in context on the right there, and shown in the wider urban context. So again, this shows just the photographs taken of the site and within the site. I've taken some photographs so that they might be a bit clearer as we progress. And that shows the proposal. You see the in and out access arrangement at the right of that slide, and it comes into the site, and you would travel in the circular direction around the site. So you can see the containers lined up in the middle and at the side of the site, with steps at the side, so people will park up and deposit their household waste. There will be staff on site to be able to assist people and show them where they need to place certain items of recycling. And the area at the top on the left there, that's the back of house area where it will be managed. Again, this shows a bird's eye view of the site. And again, this is a picture from within the site, looking towards the access and the access road that comes in. Again, that's a similar view, just taking slightly to the right. It shows an adjoining 2-storey office building on the site, which doesn't form part of this application. And that's the existing site office on site. Again, that shows another site office, which is sited further along that boundary. And again, that shows the access into the site, so that view is taken from just outside the site. And again, slightly different angle, showing the similar. Again, that's taken slightly further to the side, so looking back into the site, and you can see the site office in that corner. Again, that's taken a bit further along that road, so again, you're looking more towards the back of house facility. And again, that's looking across the site towards the boundary with the adjoining woodland area. And these are views taken from Merivale Mews, which are the nearest properties to the site. So the civic amenity site will be at the top there, behind those trees. So there's a couple of views. So those will be the very nearest properties, and the civic amenity site will be at the back there. So again, that's just another view. You can just see the bridge where the railway crosses the Fraser River. So the site forms part of the former coal yard depot site, and there is an existing arrangement which allows the operation of an existing civic amenity site on one weekend per month, known as Golden Weekends. Members may recall an earlier application seeking use of the site for 7 days a week, which was presented to this committee on the 23rd of May last year, which, although members resolved to approve, the permission was not issued due to technical issues with the consultee, and that application has now been withdrawn. The current proposals would allow the use of the site for a temporary 5-year period for a weekend-only opening civic amenity site. The site would handle up to 48,000 tonnes of waste per year, with Saturday and Sunday opening hours of 9 till 5 in the afternoon. The Council's Environmental Services Waste Team require a facility in the south of the borough due to the acute and long-standing shortage of civic amenity facilities in the wider council area. Originally, the council had 3 full-time sites, one at Rigby Lane in Hayes, in New Year's Green Lane in Harefield, and a very large site at Victoria Road in South Ruislip. Now only the Harefield site operates on a full-time basis, supplemented by the temporary facility at Tavistock Road, which only operates on 1 golden weekend per month. The long-term solutions to address this deficiency in service provision within the borough are being sought, but in the meantime, a temporary facility at Tavistock Road will provide a much-needed increase in civic amenity capacity, the principal beneficiaries of which will be local residents. Planning merits of the scheme can be summarised as follows. It would deliver an extended weekend opening civic amenity site within the south of the borough, where none exist at present. As this proposal is only for a 5-year temporary period, it does not prejudice the long-term aspirations of this site, which are being driven by the emerging local plan Part 2. The impact of additional vehicular movements generated by this development are not considered to be significant. Overall, there will be a reduction in journeys made to the Harefield civic amenity site. So vehicles entering the site would use the internal access road, whose junction with Tavistock Road is close to the High Street. The existing golden weekend use of the site generates some 50 to 90 two-way hourly trips to the site throughout the day. The highway engineer advises that this level of traffic does not result in any measurable harm to the operation of the surrounding highway network, and a similar hourly level of trip generation can be expected over the other weekends and is likely to reduce, perhaps significantly, as a result of the opportunity to use the facility during the weekends on the rest of the month. The weekend use of the site also generates some 24 two-way HGV movements, but these would only take place during the week. Public use of the level crossing also already occurs during the golden weekend use of the site, and no objections have been raised by Network Rail to extend this use to all weekends, and conditions are proposed to ensure safety measures are maintained and enhanced. There are no residential properties that directly abut the site. To the north, the nearest residential properties that we saw in the photographs are in Merivale Mews off Tavistock Road, some 50 metres away from the northern boundary of the application site. The closest properties to the site to the south are in Wearside Gardens, some 90 metres away. The development would be separated from surrounding residential properties on all sides by railway lines, including the Great Western Main Line to the south. This relationship and the separation distances involved are considered adequate to ensure the development would not have adverse impacts on the amenity of residential occupiers in terms of their residential amenity, which the Council's Environmental Protection Officer has assessed as being very minimal. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Sweeting, are you
Chairman, before we take... Can I ask for one very minor clarification from officers, and that's with regards to the plan. Whether or not the plan before us, the proposed site, differs in any way to the Golden Weekend that presently operates, because I didn't hear that, and whether it differs from what was previously partly approved or approved.
It does differ from that, definitely.
Does it differ from the Golden Weekend?
I don't know about the Golden Weekend.
No, it'd be the same area as the Golden Weekend.
It is a smaller plan than the previous one.
So the previous proposal had trade waste, and members discussed that. The committee for the larger scheme, larger site, issues to do with weighbridges and a whole load of other things to do with that. There is no trade waste. This is just a civic amenity use.
Okay. No change in that.
Councillor Sweeting, are you speaking on behalf of petitioners or is the petitioner speaking? Okay, that's fine. I saw you there, so I'm just checking who's speaking. If you press the button on the middle when you're ready, and we'll start the timers.
My name is Sylvia Roberts Stedman, 77 years. I have lived at Bridge House in Humber Close, West Drayton, sheltered accommodation for retired people for 13 years, which is within 50 metres of the proposed civic amenities facilities. There are many grounds of objection to this proposal. Firstly, the proposal is for 48,000 tonnes of waste capacity, which is almost twice the amount processed at Harefield, a site which is in open countryside and not pressed between huge residential areas. If approved, this development would see a very large increase in the amount of waste to be processed here, and seems to us residents to be a backdoor way of Powday getting approval to process waste on an industrial scale. This huge increase will mean residents will have no respite to noise, pollution, smells for every weekend of the year. Secondly, residents have gone through a long process to get this site excluded from the West London Waste Plan, which was first suggested by the council. The government inspector made particular comments saying it was unsuitable for waste use and had totally unsuitable access. Residents then worked with the council to get the site designated for some acceptable use, and this was successful in that the site is now designated as a site for residential lead mixed use in the local plan part 2. So extensive legal processes have taken place saying that this site is not suitable or acceptable for waste. The council should not be processing intensive use of this site for waste purposes, but observing the law and the democratic process which has led to its redesignation. Thirdly, there will be an unacceptable increase in traffic in the Tavistock Road Station Road junction, already operating at capacity, as previous council studies have shown. The High Street in Useley and West Drayton already suffer gridlock, and idling traffic is the worst source of pollution for the health of residents. This proposal increases the waste traffic from one weekend to a month to every weekend. This is completely unacceptable, as not only will the domestic traffic from residents increase, but also with the HGVs transporting waste from the site. Fourthly, Network Rail states that there should be a trial period regarding the level crossing. I am astonished that the officers say in the report that the conflict between vehicles attending and departing from the site and train would be small. This is a live rail where it is hoped, fingers crossed, the residents are not caught up with the trains passing. After the public use of the site, the proposal will be a result after hours activities in the night by up to 48 one-way HGV movements, giving residents no respite at the weekends at all. The air quality officers comments recommending HGVs be routed away from the residential roads and properties lacks understanding, as all roads to and from the site are local residential roads. The council has to find an alternative site in 5 years, even if this application is approved. So please find it now, and do not dump waste on a heavily built up residential area 50 metres from my window. Please, please, please refuse this application.
Thank you. Do members have any questions? No. Thank you very much indeed. Could you just turn that microphone off for me?
Oh, sorry, dear.
That's all right. Anyone here on behalf of the agent or the applicant? No. Okay. I open it for debate then. Who wants to start me off? Councillor Oswald?
Thank you very much, Chairman. The principle of the site is good. I just think it's in the wrong place. The point's already been made. There's loads of comment in the report, Chairman, that we've probably all read. If not, we should have done. West London Waste Plan has already been mentioned, that the site isn't suitable for waste due to the surrounding residential properties. What I wanted to ask officers, Chairman, was, is there an estimated a number of lorry movements per year Have we done that at all? Can we estimate that? I notice that there's a banksman that's going to operate the level crossing should this be approved. I think that's a good idea. And how many rail movements do we think that there may be over a weekend, every weekend for 5 years?
The head of planning will start.
If I can comment on the rail, and just giving my highway engineer colleague time to prepare answers on the highways. The position, as I understand it, is there aren't any rail movements over the weekend, but that's not to say that wouldn't change. So the landowner is Network Rail. This committee has obviously previously agreed, I know it wasn't unanimous, but previously agreed a proposal that did also involve trade waste, in effect a larger scale proposal. The reason that application was withdrawn is effectively Network Rail have a power of veto over the proposals. My understanding is that Network Rail are happy with these proposals because it only involves the weekend. In effect, there's already been the Golden Weekends, that's operated without a problem. I can only imagine that Network Rail's concern was that the previous proposal involved daytime and hence they had concerns. But this is conditioned so that it would only be the weekends. And to just answer one of the points raised by the petitioner, who I know has a concern that there's some kind of backdoor routines of Power Day, not only is that not the case, but Condition 3 says that there won't be any trade waste. So any ambiguity that third parties or devil's advocate somebody thought might have applied by the council by this committee previously allowing proposal with trade waste won't apply, because this application is purely for a civic amenity site use. So that purely means members of the public with their cars using the site. It would be pretty obvious if there is anything that breaches that condition, because it specifies that site shan't accept trade waste. And hopefully my highway engineer colleague is ready to comment.
Thank you, Chairman. There would be 24 two-way lorry movements per week, which would take place on weekdays. So 24 lorry movements per week times 52 weeks of the year would be 1,248 two-way lorry movements per year. If that was evenly spread through all of the weekdays, that would amount to 5 two-way lorry movements per day. Though I'm not saying they will be evenly spread.
Thank you, Chairman. Asked and answered. I didn't notice your calculator over there, Alan. It's pretty good. Okay. Asked and answered. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Edwards, followed by Councillor Goddard.
Thank you. We heard from the petitioner the issues around disturbance to residents. I wondered if officers could tell me how many reports had been received by the council about traffic, noise or dust pollution arising out of the Golden Weekend use in the last year, please.
Sometimes I prepare in case of possible questions. So there hasn't been, regarding the Golden Weekends, there hasn't been any noise complaints received in the past year. There was one query that related to someone was concerned about a pothole on the access road. So it was a highways related query, but not any concerning people concerned about noise, dust or any environmental concerns.
Okay, thank you. That Councillor Goddard, and then it was Councillor Higgins, and that completes my list.
Thank you, Chairman. I note what the officers said about the HGV movements being during the week, yet I don't see that reflected in the report. Is it possible to ensure that we get appropriate conditioning that the HGV movements will only be during the week, please?
We have a delivery and servicing plan to come in on this one. I don't know whether that will deal with it. Perhaps the head of planning will offer me a comment. What does page 100 tell me? Oh yeah, but that's part of the report. Yep. Perhaps the head of planning will offer me some comment.
condition A is the delivery and servicing plan, so we will get more details of the movements. I had actually, ahead of the meeting, made some notes that if members wanted to further tighten that condition, you could add wording to the effect that it avoids any movements during sensitive hours. I would clarify that there's a number of people who will know that there was an enforcement appeal, and the inspector decided that 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. were the sensitive hours, and so I don't think anybody would want anything being granted here involving vehicles during those hours, and I could gladly amend the condition to ensure that is the case. So I appreciate I'm going to be fully answering your question. I've digressed slightly, but it is condition 8.
Okay. Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chairman. Just 2 points, really. Firstly, opening hours. I've wondered if we can change the opening hours on a Sunday. I think 9 a.m. is a little bit early. That would be 10 till 5 would be fine. Apart from the Saturday wouldn't be really a problem. These facilities that we do run are an enormous success. I mean, obviously I'm a Harefield councillor and the one in Green.
I was going to say, what is the current Golden Weekends operate, which might be the clue to this?
Yeah, but because we're doing it on more of a consistent basis, I think we can sort of tighten that up a little bit, just to give residents some leeway.
I'll ask the head of planning in a moment. Yeah, next question.
Yeah, no, that's it really. I mean, obviously the operational hours just needs officers to clarify that very clearly, that in the week what time of the operations of moving this waste are. I know it's in there, but I just, for residents that are here, just to make that quite clear, that's all.
There's a problem if you attempt to vary condition 6, in that all the highways assessment is based on those hours. So if, for instance, you compress those hours, then you're going to influence how much traffic you could have an adverse highways impact that hadn't been considered, and if you extend the hours, not that I know you're proposing that, then obviously the impacts in terms of noise or whatever else will increase. So I'd be very cautious at altering those hours, because I don't think, my understanding in answer to something I said earlier is it does start at 9 a.m. already, but I'd be cautious. As members may have noted, I've been throwing in additional safeguards, but I'd be rather cautious on that one in terms of members altering that condition.
Coming back to you, Chairman, I don't buy that one, I'm afraid. I don't think that's going to make much difference, really. I mean, we're talking about an hour, and we're talking over a longer period. So there's not going to be the impact there is now with the Golden Weekend, because people are not all rushing down for that particular day. They might miss it that weekend, but they can come another weekend. And I really don't think an hour in the morning is going to have that impact of residents saying, "Oh my God," you know. I mean, most people won't get up till 10, you know, on a Sunday. It's still a day of rest in my house anyway.
Is it? Oh, that's good.
Well, it is obviously up to councillors to decide if they want to vary the condition. I can only advise.
Well, I'll come back on that one in a moment, if I might. Councillor.
Chairman, I'll go into some dodgy ground and argue against my colleague here. In that I would...
Why not?
support the hours as put in the paper. I noticed that the residents of the north of the borough enjoy it at 8 a.m. to 6 p.m, which is longer, and I don't see why we should just on our hoof be reducing yet further the hours available to serve residents in the south of the borough. 9 o'clock is a reasonable hour, and I would argue that we should keep the hours as stated.
I don't want it to become a debate, through you, Chairman, but the one in Harefield is, as what the resident did say, is in the countryside, and we don't have houses around, so we can operate at that time of time, and it doesn't affect anybody. If there was houses this close to that one, I would have been objecting as a World War Council.
I will just take a committee sense on that in a moment. You've heard the Head of Planning's guidance, which is not going in your favour. You've got at least one councillor not going with you, so it's going to be a split decision on that one in a minute. Well, you do try, but you often do lose, yes. Councillor Melvin.
Yeah, my concern actually was the during the week and the HGVs that are coming to remove the waste. Have we got any hours specifically on those? Because I know from personal experience that sometimes these large delivery wagons, such like, can arrive at 6 in the morning, and when they reverse, they beep, beep, beep. So I would like to see some form of...
Well, the head of planning was suggesting that the servicing plan
I am suggesting that we
could be tweaked to avoid peak hour movement.
Amend condition 8 so it's clear that there shouldn't be any movements during sensitive hours. So in case, so we don't miss it, I did earlier in the meeting suggest we had a low emission.
Yeah, no, that was going on anyway. I'd already got that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so what the head of planning said was there was a clear, the inspectorate, when they ruled on a much bigger application, and we're not going into that tonight, on this site, indicated noise sensitive hours were between 11 and 7, which seems, and that is the general principle we apply across the piece. So what the head of planning is proposing is that there shouldn't be movements in the noise sensitive hours, and also avoiding the peak hours of traffic movement, so in other words, to cover 2 periods of the day. Trying to tie it beyond that may make the operation of the site much more difficult and probably takes us beyond something we've got enough knowledge to do. So I'd be happy with that. Right, can I take a quick sense around the table on this hours question? So one of my colleagues wants one thing, one wants another. The head of planning is guiding that we would be safest to stick with what's in the report. I'll come up the table first. Councillor Goddard, where would you be on it? Right. Right. Yeah. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Councillor Dott. Yeah. Well, okay. No changes are proposed, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. In fact, it's the end of all the questions.
I think it is. I've got no other hand.
The concept of this site being used, Saturdays and Sundays for residents, has been established over quite a lengthy period and is well used and is an enjoyed civic amenity. The fact that there haven't been any recorded complaints arising from it, I cannot see why moving from one weekend a month to every weekend will exacerbate any issue that presently may exist that isn't reported to the council. I think that the benefits of having this in terms of our residents being able to dispose of rubbish locally, hopefully saving them the journey of Harefield, but also probably reducing the amount of fly tipping that is going on in the south of the borough, are significant improvements to the general benefit in the wider residents in the south of the borough. Therefore, I would move that we go with the officer's recommendations,
as varied,
subject to the slight tweak around sensitive hours, not only HGV movements but also operations on the site.
Yeah, the whole, yeah,
the whole lot.
So that was and the emissions being added as indicated the head of plan. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Sorry, I'm not seconding it. Can I just ask through you, Chairman, Alan, can you send me those figures for HGV movements in the system? Yes,
yep.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Melvin. All those in favour, please show. 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against, please show. 1, 2. Thank you. That one goes through 5-2. Yeah, it's all right. No, don't worry. I just need to be sure. Okay, I'm going to move to item 8, but I do need Councillor Duncan back. Well, okay. Hopefully we move to easier matters. Item 8 is a Slough Borough Council out-of-borough consultation. Perhaps, Richard, is this you again?
Yeah.
Could you outline what this one's all about quickly for us? Well, I was going to say, do we need a presentation on it, or are we happy to object as it is?
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
I will second the argument.
All those in favour, please clearly show me. Thank you very much. We've moved that one on. Right, I can't dispense with the next one, but, you know, hey-ho. Thank you for that. Item 9 is Unit 7B, Haysbridge Retail Park. Chris, this is your one? Yep. And this one is subject to changes in the addendum, of which there are a few bits and pieces.
Yep.
Right, where you go.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 9 is units for an application for planning permission for works to reconfigure and extend the Unit 7B within Haysbridge Retail Park. I'll just go through the plans. So you can see the application site is in the south-eastern corner of the Haysbridge Retail Park. It's located adjacent to the Yenned Brook, which is to the west, and the closest residential properties are approximately 230 metres to the north. The site is currently occupied by a building which provides 741 square metres of retail space and is located within the Springfield Road IBA. You can see the extent of the IBA there. Here is a basic location plan which shows the application site in a bit more detail. This is just a site block plan which shows the existing arrangement. Ground floor existing roof plan. These are the existing elevations, existing sections. You'll see that the extension forms the kind of slightly larger part of the south-eastern corner. You've then got a proposed ground floor plan, roof plan, some proposed elevations, proposed sections. Here's just an aerial photograph showing exactly where the extension will be going. And then some site photos which aren't particularly clear, so that's probably not too helpful. This particular photo shows the site from the car park facing towards where the extension will be going, and that's kind of towards the corner on the left of the existing building to the right. It's just some photos towards the edge. This is the flank wall for where the the extension will be going, and then just some brief photos of the actual retail park. So the proposed extension would result in a net increase of 900 square metres of total, and the total floor area would amount to 1,641 square metres of A1 retail space. Planning permission was previously refused as the application failed to demonstrate the impact to similar units within the area through the submission of an acceptable retail impact assessment as well as the ecological and flood risk assessment. The Council is of the opinion that the current proposals have not addressed those previous reasons for refusal. An independent third party has also reviewed the applicant's retail impact assessment and the sequential test and do not consider that subject to the imposition of suitable conditions that the retail store would have a detrimental impact on the existing town centres in the local area. The application and associated documents have been assessed by the relevant council officers who have raised no objection to the approval of the scheme subject to conditions. As such, the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions and a Section 106 legal agreement. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much. Could I ask our legal officer if the limited assortment discount outlet is defined in law, and if so, what exactly is it?
Chairman, I can't answer that question off the top of my head. I know lots of other definitions, not that one, I'm afraid. Can I come back to the councillor on that tomorrow?
Chairman, I can actually probably answer that question.
We've got a planner who's going to have a go at it.
I'll have a go. In basic terms, it restricts the assortment of goods to remove anything such as a bakery or a fishery counter or any type of cafe from the store also. It's not a great representation, but...
Point.
More than legal.
It's paddy time, yes.
If I can perhaps add to that. So what you'll find in some of the non-limited assortment discounter is that they have their own fish counters and in-store that they're more specialised in terms of the offer rather than simply goods coming in through the back of a lorry in effect. What I would add is that we had a discussion, very lengthy discussion with the applicant, and they were very concerned about the term bakery because all Lidl and Aldi both have bakeries in store. So the addendum removes the word bakery from condition 11. But so a specialist retail consultant looked at this proposal on behalf of the council, and obviously we can't show you everything in these reports, but there's a hefty retail report that underlies this planning permission, and the key thing really to say to members is that this is a resubmission and there's a whole hefty wedge of documents that underlie this planning application that sought to overcome the technical reasons why it was refused in the first place.
If I can just come back on that point, I have no issues with some of the other technical issues. The issue for me is that condition 11 and the extent to which this is enforceable, or whether it stops another store coming in at a later stage if it's not adequately defined. And if the definition is about limit of product line, then shouldn't the condition limit the number of products line rather than try to limit the method of sale? A fish counter, a cheese counter, something else. They are methods of sale rather than the number of products available.
I think the best, there is actually one good reassurance I can give. Yeah. This type of wording has been used in lots of other retail developments, so it's not us making something up on the hoof. I think that's the really big reassurance I can give you. So this is a kind of, this wording's been used in lots of supermarket applications across the country. It hasn't been challenged at appeal insofar as the only thing that gets discussed at appeal is whether it's appropriate to have the butcher, the hot food, etc. But what we've done is we've liaised with the applicant, we've dealt with that issue. The word bakery was the key issue, and hence the addendum should ensure that to put it simply, the applicant is happy with the wording of this planning condition as amended in the addendum, so I don't think we're going to have a problem.
Well, that's great, but this councillor might not be if it's not adequately defined and therefore enforceable, because what this is sort of saying is that any food store can go in there as long as it doesn't have hot food, a butcher, a fishmonger or post office. Because it isn't... Yeah, that...
but is that what it says? Is that what it means?
The condition is tying the use of the building to the findings of the retail assessment. So the retail assessment basically said as long as this development is limited in terms of its offer, the retail impact is acceptable. So I'm quite comfortable this condition works in plain English.
Excellent, but I would like to know how the retail assessment said how it should be limited. Yeah, it must have said it should be limited to, or it must have a view that provided it only sold this, then so be it. But at the moment we're using a terminology that doesn't appear to be defined, but we're only preventing certain methods of sale.
But is that how a limited assortment discounter is defined? Of course. That could be. I don't know. I'm no expert. I go with the head. I'm with legal on this. I don't know the definition at all.
The council appointed, just as we do with financial availability and housing, a third party. The council employed the retail expert. It was the retail expert that helped us with this condition. So this condition's had more expert input than any of the other conditions in the report. But sorry, I'll try my best to.
What I would suggest. It does appear as if this does work, in the sense that experts have appeared to have put it together. I think it would be useful for committee going forward, though, to understand how these definitions have been arrived at and what exactly they mean, because it is a term we haven't come across before. Would that help? I mean, I don't think the principle of an A1 on this site is a problem.
Neither do I, but we're framing it that says that to prevent its impact detrimental elsewhere, it should be limited. So my question is, how are you limiting it? And it is put in condition 11, this is the way we're limiting it.
Well, that appears to be the answer, yes.
And the limitation appears to be, don't have a cheese counter, don't have a butcher's, don't have a fishmonger's, but you could sell as many lines as you wanted to.
Within a 1641 square metre store.
Well, I mean, I don't come to these planning committees unprepared, and if you look at the grocery market investigation by the Competition Commission, they specify 1,500 product lines for this, and they'll compare that to a supermarket that has many more thousands, and that for me makes sense because you're actually saying you have to have a limited offer here, but we're not limiting it. We're just saying you can have as many as you like as long as you don't sell it over these counters.
We can resolve at this moment.
No, I think we can. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Can I just open that more widely for a minute before we decide what we're going to do with that aspect of that question?
No, well, I think it's all right. Yeah, I'll move the officer's recommendation, Chairman.
Okay.
I think it's all right.
I'll second that.
And I think Ian's moved us all a bit further forward.
Or not, but Councillor Duncan, did you have something to query on this one?
No, I can appreciate Councillor Edwards' point on this, because in Aldi and Lidl, they have a lot of product from other countries that you don't get in the main Sainsbury's and Tesco, etc. So already you could say that they're offering different cheeses, for example, or different types of meat products than you get elsewhere. So it's not, yes, it is limited because it's limited by the size of the store. My concern, which was another issue, and so what does it matter whether it's sold over a cheese counter or if it's just sold already pre-packed in a rack? And you might have 40 cheeses or something, for example, so that yes, I appreciate you don't need a counter. My concern was about the loss of these 77 parking spaces. I mean, do we know that there's sufficient parking there? Because food retail, I mean, yes, you can go and order a bed, that comes in a van that's delivered to you. But when you go and buy food and you buy frozen goods and things like that, you need a car.
Highway assessment and TfL and other matters?
Before Alan gives you the technical bit, what I do know, Lombardy Retail Park is rammed at the weekends. This retail park is not doing so well. It's not rammed. But Alan will be able to give you the precise data.
Thank you, Chairman. Excuse me. Hillingdon parking standards would require a range of maximums number of parking spaces provided. They range between 150 parking spaces and 750 spaces, depending on PTAL. This retail park has a PTAL of 2. With the new development built, there'd be a loss of 77 spaces, leaving a balance of 385. That's considered appropriate. I'll just remind you, between 150 and 750, this retail park would offer 385 spaces. A further consideration that we need to consider is many of the people will already be on the retail park and they will be visiting the new food store, so you're making a link trip and some of the trips will already be on the network. Thank you, Chairman.
Unless anyone wants to take the limited discount thing forward anymore, I am proposed and seconded on this one.
I would like to ask a question on the air quality, if I may. That the report at 7.18 says that the resulting damage cost of 112, which should be secured by the 106 agreement, but we appear to have accepted 67,586. I wondered why, please.
Somebody going to volunteer me an answer to that one? You've got another question. No one's volunteering me an answer. Councillor Tuckworth, perhaps you'll chat me a question up and then we'll...
Sorry, it's halfway down page 152. It explains that there was further discussion and the Air Quality Officer revised her request to 67,586. So the Air Quality Officer has a way of calculating these things, and
Was persuaded our first calculation wasn't correct.
yeah. What always happens is the first calculation is shared with the applicant. There's a further discussion, and if there's any corrections done, then the revised figure.
Well, we have the correction. Done.
So,
Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask a question about access to the car park, and whether or not there's any changes to that access given the reconfiguration. The reason for the question is I seem to recall last year we had an application on this car park, and there was concern over the impact of antisocial behaviour at weekends, and whether or not there's any changes to access which need to be considered.
No, there's no changes to the access.
I think the concern, if this was the same site, was about the gym open 24 hours a day.
And then it was a keypad to get in over.
That was 24 hours a day, wasn't it?
Smart barrier. So.
Whereas this one is only standard retail hours, is it not? So
is it? Yes, it's standard retail hours.
Although there's no conditions on hours, I might just comment.
With that.
Sorry, I comment first. We need hours conditioning on this or not? No? Happy with it? Okay, I'm proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show me. That's 7. You'll abstain. What I would ask, I think, to avoid this coming up again, perhaps between officers and legal, is we could have circulated to us a clear definition of limited assortment discounter, so we know what we're looking at, and whether it just refers to bakery counters or whether there's some more numbers in it. Right, I get to item 10, which is 51 Belmont Road. Can I remind members on this particular one, you may well have issues with a lot of this, but we are considering one aspect of it. The rest of it is either prior approval or previously approved. So you're looking at one small element of a scheme, please, and I'll have to confine debate to that. Chris, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman. The application seeks planning permission for the removal of the undercroft parking and replacement with residential units, a third floor level extension and rearrangement of the lower and upper ground floor levels to provide 16 residential units, plus external alterations including landscaping, parking, refuse collection and cycle storage. I'll just direct members through the plans. You'll see the site is highlighted in red. To the southwest, you'll have the Uxbridge High Street. Travelling further north east, you'll travel up Belmont Road. There'll be the Sainsbury's Superstore to the right hand side. There's a constraints plan, and then we've got the existing lower ground floor plan, existing ground floor plan, existing first floor, the existing second floor plan, and the existing elevations, side elevations, and proposed site location plan, proposed lower ground floor plan, proposed ground floor plan, first floor plan, the second floor plan, third floor plan, proposed front and rear elevations, and further front and rear elevations. Oh, sorry. Well, what I need to just highlight is that there was an amended plan which is included within the addendum, which was submitted just to highlight a change to the lower ground floor level windows. It's just to the bottom left. You'll notice that there is a larger window been proposed in order to improve outlook, daylight, sunlight into that unit. Proposed site elevation. And then just some photographs. Front. This is the rear. You'll see the undercroft car park there. Front. This is the access in. Rear. Those are the two windows I was referring to. some visual from inside. Okay, so the application site benefits from prior approval for the change of use from office to 14 residential units on the first and second floors, together with parking, cycle storage and waste and recycling storage under reference 34151 /APP 2017 /3332. Consent has also been granted under reference 34151 /APP 2018 /4259 for a third floor level conversion of Undercroft to office and creation of 4x1 bed and 4x2 bed self-contained flats with associated alterations to the elevations. The proposed development would meet internal floor area standards, with all rooms benefiting from a reasonable level of outlook and daylight. The visual impact of the third floor extension is acceptable and has been approved under application reference 34151 /APP /2018 /4259. The loss of office space has been carefully considered and deemed acceptable given the planning history of the building, which would result in the remaining floor space being more challenging and less viable to let and manage. In addition, the applicant has provided evidence of alternative available office floor space within the Uxbridge Town Centre. No additional car parking spaces are provided, which is acceptable given the site lies within a PTAL zone of 5 to 6. The Section 106 agreement would be entered into should the application be approved to secure the affordable housing contribution, potential carbon offset, and to ensure the proposal remains as a car-free development. The application is recommended for approval subject to conditions of Section 106 agreement. Thank you, Chairman.
And some slight changes in the addendum.
Sorry.
Yep.
If I may go straight in, because I noticed one or two members may have picked up the one issue on this one. So the right-hand bottom unit, so the issue we were closely focusing on as officers is, does that unit get enough outlook? What the applicant has done is enlarged one of the windows so that in terms of daylight sunlight assessment, it gets just enough light that we can't refuse it, can't win a planning appeal. So that's the long and short of it. I'll try and put it in basic terms rather than pitch it to you, if that makes sense.
Thank you, James, for that this time of night. With that pitch, can I open this one up, Councillor Duncan?
Thank you for that clarification. I suppose we'd all seen that photograph and we would have all asked the same question. If we're talking about sustainable development and carbon footprint, you want to have as large windows as possible. Otherwise, people are just going to be using electricity and having to have lights on all the time, all day. I mean, is this the level of development that we aspire to? I mean, I'm really sad. If it's within the level set, then we really don't have a choice. Our hands are tied. But, I mean, it goes against the grain, I think, for all of us to be approving.
I don't expect anyone to jump up and down and claim they like this one, by the way.
It's true, isn't it?
If I may, so what we're getting here is all the units meet floor space standards. So we're not having prior approval size units, and we're gaining 16 units. And yes, one of the units I'm not going to sell to you as being great. Hence why it's got a window that's not the same shape as all the other ones in order to deal with the inherent issue. But unfortunately, when we go to the building inspector, we'll see that there's some affordable housing, there's some good sized units, and they're just going to take the pragmatic view, and it's going to get allowed. So we're taking a pragmatic view of basically achieving as much as we can get through conditions in 106. And if we go to appeal, we could lose some of those gains. So I'm going to give you the pragmatic view rather than tell you that one unit is a wonderful unit.
Councillor Higgins?
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to, is there any way we can have some guarantees that it's not part of the units that will be handed over for affordable housing? That would be the first thing, and it can be sold on open market, which I doubt they get very much money for, but I bet you that would be one of them. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's up to do, and this is what you know. This committee knows my feeling on this constant coming back. And if this was in its first stages, we would not approve this. But because we're allowing developers to keep coming back and making minor changes and actually converting those into rooms without permission, because you can see it's already been done, is a real concern.
Hang on, councillor. Wind that one in a little.
There is some planning permissions already on this site, so they are...
They've got
entitled
planning
to
permissions
put
for
up
everything
scaffolding.
apart from the bottom.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying
I am
if it came to us in the beginning, the first planning application, would we as a committee allow this to go through? The answer is no. What I'm trying to say to you is that the system is broken. The system is working thing. I'm not going to go on about it. I can't vote for this. All I want to know is that can we some way make the developer make sure that that flat or whatever it is not.
I don't know
affordable housing.
if we have a legal power to do that because it meets certain standards, but I'll ask the legal officer for review.
Chairman, I think first of all I'll just echo what the head of planning said. I think here the developer's done just enough to get through, and what I'm happy to do is take away and look at this in some detail as to whether we can there's some safeguard there that we can ensure the developer can't pass that on as affordable housing given the sentiments that's been expressed there. And if I can come back to you through Chairman with the head of planning on that.
I'll take that assurance because I think that's the most I can achieve. I'd like to achieve more, but I'm not going to. Councillor Edwards?
I think Councillor Duncan expressed very well the situation we find ourselves in. There's nothing that can be achieved by me outlining all my troubles with it, therefore I'll move Monster's recommendation.
Thank you. A seconder for that, please. You get a second?
I'll second it on the condition that we've already said.
Michael, yeah. So I have a second. The bit the legal officer is going to come back to me on is can we do anything with that affordable housing, which is a very valid concern. I wouldn't wish to see that one, palmed off. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. That one's approved. Right, items 11 and 12 are Southend Arts Centre, which is a council application. The addendum clarifies that. These are basically alterations and repair works, to be pretty clear. Yes?
Yep.
Does anybody need full presentations on this, or are you happy with what you see?
I'll move officer's recommendations, or I'll second.
Well, I had a proposal and a second, and no one else had any questions? Okay, all those in favour of item 11, please clearly show me. Thank you very much. I know you need another vote. I'm well aware. For item 12, can I take the same proposal and seconder, please? And all those in favour, please clearly show me. Thank you very much. Those two are now approved. And I move rapidly to the last one of the night. Somebody must have an interest in this. Item 13, which is Prologis Park West, Halton Road, Useley. And something to do with a gantry and generators. And a green wall, I see in the addendum. Richard, you
want a presentation?
Well, I think we need a little bit on this one because it's a substantial bit of kit.
I'm holding it.
That you missed. Yep. Thank you, Chairman. So members have seen numerous applications over the years on this site, which is now almost fully operational and built out. The current application seeks planning permission for the installation of plant to support Unit DC4 within the site. The plant equipment is proposed to be installed on the parking area for this development. This will take the form of an attached tiered gantry structure, which would host plant for 47 in number and 16 generators within the loading area in connection with the use of the building as a data centre. The proposal also includes green wall screening along its southern side elevation, landscaping and security fencing. Let me just run through the plans. That's the application site. That's for the whole of all the four buildings on site which are being built out now. So again, that's a constraints plan that shows the green belt boundary. So again, this site does fall within the green belt, although it is an industrial centre. So yeah, that comes down. That's the individual red line boundary showing unit DC4, just in the south western corner there. So So again, that's an existing site layout. So the building's on the left-hand side, and the sort of parking loading area is on the right-hand side. And again, that's the existing ground floor, showing the loading area to the north. Yeah, it's the existing first floor plan. Again, second floor plan, third floor plan, and that's the roof plan. So you can see the edge of the building and the loading bay below. These are the existing elevations, existing sections. So again, it's the proposed site plan, the site layout. Proposed ground floor plan. You can just see the generators there at the top of the plan. So has this got a laser? Yeah, it's at the top there. Sorry, you can just about. Yep. Yep. So this is the first floor plan. And the second floor plan. And the third floor plan. Again, this is the proposed roof plan, so you can see again the generators on the ground floor plan, and the gantry structure that projects forward of the building on the floors above, which would house the plant. So this just shows the proposed fencing around the boundary of the site. And these are the proposed elevations. So here, this is the area of green walling that would shield all the gantry from the adjoining Grand Union Canal. Sorry. So these are proposed sections, and again it shows the gantry structure, so like maybe a sort of open type structure with louvers on the side. Again, more proposed sections. These are the proposed gantry elevations. Again, you can see the green walling there. And obviously that's what you see from the front of the building. You see the generators on the ground floor and the gantry structure above it housing plants. That's taken from the front of the design and access statement, but it just gives an impression of what the structure would look like. These are sort of some vehicular tracking parts that show that the building can still be serviced appropriately with all the generators in place. Again, another tracking diagram that shows a vehicle being able to turn within the site. Again, this is a bird's eye view before the building was erected. And these are just elevations, photographs taken from the adjoining Grand Union Canal. So we just various views along the canal, but the adjoining unit has a very similar structure. So that's our building currently being built. It's nearly completed on site, but the adjoining building at the side's got a similar structure, which, let's see if we can see it. No. So yeah, you can just make out the side of it there, right onto the right-hand side of that slide, the green walling. Just over there in the corner. Yeah. That's not brilliant. So the proposed plant will be screened by an extensive green wall to reflect the green wall already installed on the adjoining unit to minimise the impact of the development on the blue ribbon network. In order to ensure the longevity of the site once the current occupants leave the site, it is necessary to reinstate the parking area and servicing bays Therefore, a condition is proposed to remove this equipment once the site is vacated by a data centre operator. Whilst the site is located within the greenbelt, the proposed built form is restricted to the developed area of the site and will be set in from the views across to the open greenbelt areas and is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
There is an addendum to ensure the green wall is maintained for as long as the development's in existence. Anybody got any queries on this one? Councillor Higgins.
No, just go officer's recommendations.
Second. Oh, there you go. Second on this side. No other queries. All those in favour, please show me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. 8 o'clock exactly. We close.